Hi everyone, my name is Fiorenza. I've seen some of you already as part of Career Leap. Hi, it's good to see you. It's great to see you. I'm a career development coach, I'm a facilitator, and I'm also the leader of our Career Leap project team. Today's session is part of Career Leap, of course. As a quick reminder, Career Leap is a 6-week journey designed to support you and your career with clarity, momentum, and connection. We have 3 tracks for Career Leap. The first one is leaping into L&D. The second one is leaping into L&D leadership. And finally, our third track is leaping into L&D entrepreneurship. Today's session, today's workshop, Building Internal Influences and Visibility with Intention, belongs to tracks 1 and 2. A quick note I wanted to share with you, and hopefully you can relate. So before I moved into coaching, I was in corporate, as I expect lots of you to be as well today. And I know firsthand how much internal networking, how much building visibility to our profile is important, how much building alliances is truly important for ourselves and also for our career. It's also a very important topic, a topic that is top of mind for many people that come to coaching. And my guess is that it's also a topic that is top of mind for many of you today. So I'm super excited to have this session. Today, we're going to explore how you can strengthen your internal network, navigate org dynamics with clarity and confidence, and advocate for your work without self-promotion burnout. Without further ado, I want to welcome and give you a quick introduction for our speaker today, Jessalin Lam. Hi, Jessalin. So Jessalin is a growth mindset coach, speaker, author, and D&I leader with over 15 years of experience across learning and development, culture transformation, and org change. She's also the founder of Joy of Jessalin, where she empowers professionals to cultivate self-awareness, build influence, and lead with authenticity. And finally, Jessalin is the author of the book, The Visibility Mindset, which I think I can see in the background. Hi, Jessalin. The floor is yours.
Great. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. And it's great to be here with all of you today. Okay, let me just make sure you all can see that. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I will also make sure the beauty of having 2 monitors. Okay, so I also have the video and chat on my next monitor. So thank you for the introduction. As it was mentioned for my introduction, I'm Jessalin Lam, a growth mindset coach, author, speaker, and founder of Transform and Thrive. So welcome to today's session on building internal influence and visibility with intention. And in today's dynamic workplace, success isn't about what you know, it's also about how you're showing up, building alliances with the people you work with, and navigating your internal landscape with clarity and confidence. So, this session is about transforming internal networking into a strategic skill that can help fuel and support your growth, your visibility, and agenda today. We're going to talk about why internal influence matters, then share with you a breakdown of the different kinds of connection types in the workplace, and then also share with you a framework so you can know how to connect with those connections, and then some examples of how to advocate for yourself, and then leave you with an actionable networking connection plan to help you get started to continue the work even after today's session. So I know there was already a quick really quickly that it's really great to meet everyone, and I really appreciate you all being here. And for me, I wanted to share that my purpose is to build a legacy of transformation for my daughter and helping unlock the growth through mindset, purpose, and possibility. And so you can see in this picture, it's my daughter. I'm a proud mom to a 3-year-old named Summer, and she inspires me so much for how I show up in the world with intention, resilience, and curiosity. And then professionally, I'm a growth mindset coach, speaker, and host of Transform and Thrive podcasts. And then I'm also the author of The Visibility Mindset. And so my work is rooted in helping people unlock growth with intention and presence. And I'm modeling this for this workshop is also about to inspire you to be intentional with how you're building relationships that support your visibility and growth. And as a quick check-in, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to put it in the chat of how often are you intentionally networking within your organization? Is it weekly, monthly, rarely, never? Curious to hear from the group today. Okay, we have occasionally, never, rarely, multiple times a week, as often as I can, weekly, if not daily. Depends on needs with functions sometimes. Okay, great. It's a good mix. And it's just good. There's no judgment of where you are. It's more just knowing your starting point. And then it can always get better and build it from here. So we'll go into why internal influence matters and know that internal relationships are a career accelerator. So they give you access to clarity, support you beyond what a job description can offer you. And then internal visibility leads to access. So when you build relationships and show up with intention, you're more likely to be on top of mind for opportunities, mentorship, and collaboration. And keep in mind that internal networking increases opportunities for career growth and visibility. And then you also will have more clarity on organizational dynamics as you're talking to different types of people, different leaders across teams beyond just your day-to-day team. It'll increase opportunities to collaborate across the organization for introducing even new projects that you might have not been aware of or to even help support your growth. And then it can also help provide credibility for your work because it builds that reputation for people to talk about the work and advocate for you when you're not even in the room. And then before I dive into some blockers that often get in the way of internal networking, I'm curious to hear what do you think are some common barriers to internal networking? Feel free to drop it in the chat. How to start the conversation? I'm too busy. Yep. Time. Absolutely. Not knowing who to speak to, doing the actual work. Yes. Time, silos, overwhelmed, no idea how to do it. And I'm seeing time a lot. Yes. And the reason I wanted to start with that is just so we're aware of what are those common barriers, because everything people put in the chat, these are real. And the common ones we hear often is, I don't have the time. And we saw that in the chat as well. Or I don't seem to have, I don't want to sound self-serving. So being able to ask people for help and I don't know where to start or who to reach out to, and then that is an obstacle. Or even now in this day and age, a lot of times people say the remote work makes it harder to connect. So these are limiting beliefs that you can work on reframing how you might be talking about it to yourself. So that's why I wanted to share these are the common barriers, and then now we're going to work on reframing your networking mindset. So here's the shift that can be worked on. The first one is think about internal networking isn't about performing, it's about aligning. And how visibility isn't about ego, it's about making the impact that you're creating more visible. And then when it comes to self-advocacy, it isn't about arrogance, it's your leadership in motion. So this is a great way to help you build trust, shared knowledge, create pathways for one another, and it's a great way to guide you in reframing your networking mindset. And then now, when it comes to those key internal connections, there are so many people that you could be meeting. So, this is key internal connections to help get you started. And then before we go into the type of connections, I wanted to share about the influence that it's not always in the org chart by someone's title. There are these are simple ways when you can think about internal influencers. So these are going to be people who are often asked for their input before decision making, or people who have strong cross-functional relationships, and people who are bridge builders that are trusted by leaders and their peers. Their opinions shape the direction of an outcome or a project. They're also seen as those informal mentors to people in the organization. And then you often will hear their names are positively mentioned in rooms. So that's definitely something to take into consideration so that when you're looking for people to connect to, definitely look for those influencers that you want to make sure to connect with. And then eventually you'll become one yourself as well. And so I made it into like a fun way for you to think about internal connections. So these are the type of people that you can consider for internal connections that will support and fuel your growth. And it's called Spark. So these were the five ones. The first one is sponsors and senior leaders. These are the type of people who are going to help open doors and elevate your visibility. Then there's the P's for peers across teams. They share knowledge and create opportunities to collaborate. And then A is for affinity, BRG, which is business resource group, or ERG, employee resource group members. Those are communities within an organization that share identity and value-driven connections. And the R is role models and mentors. Those are leaders who are inspiring you and offering you guidance in the workplace. And the last one, K, is for key collaborators. So those are your peers that you're working alongside on projects. So that can help enhance execution and trust while you're working together. So each type supports you in different ways when it comes to your visibility, your belonging, influence, or growth. And another way to think about your spark connections are that they are your influence network inside the organization. So the group of people around you who are going to advocate for you when it comes to sponsors and senior leaders, and then they're going to open doors to opportunities and then share knowledge, trust, and visibility. And then they're also going to help you move ideas forward even when you're not in the room. So this is a quick way to think about each of the type of connections and then the type of influence they'll have for you to support you. And also think about it that it's not about collecting the context, it's about the quality of the connection and cultivating relationships that have momentum and impact. And in the next few slides, I'll also give you some quick personal examples of my own Spark connections within the workplace. So the next one here, the first one is sponsors and senior leaders. So this is an example where I pitched the idea to facilitate a workshop about growth mindset to our head of learning and development. And she approved the idea, and I was able to facilitate my first workshop in April. And that was globally, internally for our organization. And so it not only created space for it, she also referred me to an internal agency who wanted me to do a workshop for their town hall for over 600 people. It's actually next week. I'm a little bit nervous because it'll actually be, they don't know this, but it will be the first time I will be doing the growth mindset workshop for 600 people virtually. And I'm really excited about it because growth mindset is something I want to be doing more of. And this head of learning development, that this executive knows that. So that's why she was like, yeah, Jessalin could do this topic. And so it's really exciting to have those opportunities internally in the workplace. And it wouldn't happen if I didn't tell the leader that this is something I'm looking to do. Like, are there opportunities for that? Because then it became top of mind for her because she connected me I also didn't share it in my intro, my day job in the corporate world. I'm the VP of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Publicis Health. So I sit under Publicis Group, which is our parent holding company. And so she connected me to someone at a Publicis Group agency that I personally never heard of. I was like, oh, never heard of this agency. So it's opening doors and opportunities that you don't even know exist. And so that's the type of connection or example of a sponsor where they know your goals, they know what you want to do, they're going to create an opportunity for you and be able to introduce you to people that you might not already know. So that is one example. Oh, amazing. I love that. I just saw Lori's chat. We'll have to connect. Okay, and then P is peers across teams. So this is an example where I collaborated with a colleague who is a recruiter, and we partnered with an organization called Co-op, and they are an amazing organization for first gen graduates who are underemployed. They get a fellowship program, and part of our partnership, we give them access to our leaders for a quarterly fireside chat. And I work under Publicis Health, so the healthcare marketing agencies. And a lot of it is also awareness of what is a job like in healthcare marketing. So it was really great to see them show up in our office and introduce them to leaders. And I did that being able to just collaborate with my colleague who I pitched the idea for her. She was able to secure the speakers, and she also was on the panel as well. And it was a really great turnout where we're even having another call with them to do a similar format of this work session again in the fall. So this is just an example where I already was partnering with Co-op, and then I pitched it to a colleague. I was like, "Do you think your agency would be interested in this?" And she was on board, and so we were able to make it happen. So being able to even share your goals with people that are aligning to the impact that you want to create makes it a lot easier to be able to scale the impact internally in an organization. And then also, this is an example for affinity, BRG, and ERG members. So within Publicis Group, we call them BRGs for Business Resource Group. We have one for parents called Publicis Parents. And I was able to facilitate a discussion about there's a show called Parent Test after I pitched the idea to the national board members. And I think Kat Richards is actually on this call too. She is the person I facilitated this with. She works at Digitas. And it was amazing where I pitched the idea to the national board of the BRG, and then I recruited along with me because she is also a new working mom, where she actually referred me to my current job. So it's amazing to also make it more fun in the workplace and then be around other working parents. So it was a really incredible, engaging conversation. And then Kat and I also, in addition to this workshop, we also had hosted other ones for this BRG. So it's a great way to get involved beyond just your day-to-day work. So hopefully there are community organizations within your company. And if they're not, you can always pitch the idea. So one example, when I used to work for TBWA, which is another agency, they're under Omnicom Group, and I pitched it during the time to an Asian executive. I was like, why don't we have a employee resource group for the Asian community? And we were able to brainstorm together and create it. And so now it's called the Omnicom Asian Leader Circle, and I helped them create their first employee resource group for the Asian community. So that's just another idea too. If these don't exist, you can always talk to your HR talent team or even executive to ask them if they want to be an executive sponsor to create this internally within your organization. And then for R, for role models and mentors, for this one, this is a group picture from attending an industry conference called Bridge. And I was fortunate and grateful for our Chief Diversity Officer. She invited me to attend this last year with other DEI practitioner and colleagues. And this is an example of a mentor who knew like my goal was to like also eventually like collaborate with her more. So she was able to invite me and have community with other DI leaders within the workplace. And it was also a select amount of people that were invited. And they're able to know about these opportunities only if you tell them. So I make sure I have one-on-ones with this mentor and making sure we have check-ins and they know what my goals are and I know what their goals are. So I'm also helping support them internally. And so it ends up becoming a mutually beneficial relationship as well. And then the last one on here is key collaborators. So this is a group picture from our Inclusive Leaders workshop that wouldn't have taken place without Alina Lin, who is on my, I guess, in the middle in the jean jacket with a black shirt. And she's a colleague I closely collaborate with to create this opportunity for one of our internal agencies that we piloted last summer. This came from after I learned about the program and heard there was an opportunity to do train the trainer. So when she mentioned the opportunity for train the trainer, I was like, yes, sign me up. So she was able to make that happen for me to do that. And then we started brainstorming how can we bring this to Digitas Health, one of our agencies under our healthcare marketing agencies. And we were able to partner together, work on the content of the workshop, revise it, and it became a 2-day workshop last summer. And it's probably one of my most favorite projects because with this one, for inclusive leaders, we gave them all the leaders an assessment where we partner with a company called IDI and it assesses their cultural fluency. So I was able to let them know where they think they are when it comes to their cultural fluency and where they can improve on. So it was a really great way to do that. And it wouldn't have happened if Alina and I didn't talk about these opportunities and then talk about where could we pilot this and how could it benefit our people. And it's something we want to continue to move forward. So it's great that we were able to pilot it at our agency. And then now we're going to bring it to other agencies across Publicis Group. So now that you heard my personal examples, I want to put you into breakout rooms to reflect and share a current or aspirational spark connection. And then think about someone you would like to build a stronger relationship with. And then you can talk about what are the things that you want to do and be able to talk about it in the breakout room. Okay, we're going to put you into breakout rooms and then we'll give you about 5 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, I think everyone is back now. Great. And I saw, Paige, you asked about the cultural fluency test. So I'm going to put that in the chat from IDI just as the resource for that. Does anyone want to share their example from their breakout rooms or insights from that conversation? How are your conversations?
I'm happy to share.
Sure.
Yeah, I think what was I think interesting that we had in common that we three wanted to like have more of a relationship with like a senior leader, and then two of my partners in the breakout rooms was their CEO or CTO, which can be a bit daunting to build this relationship with them. So we discussed that a bit. And for me personally, I'm now in between jobs, but I do really want to continue like building my network and also finding maybe a mentor, not in the organization that I was, but somewhere else. And my previous manager, she used to work at a different company, and there was this really great L&D lead that did a lot of cool, innovative stuff. So I'm still thinking about having her introduce us so that I can maybe learn from her as well.
Absolutely. I love that. And you're being intentional about when you get your next role, like this is the plan of action for how you're going to connect with people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm thinking about that now.
That's great. Anyone else want to share?
In our group, we were really praising and enjoying the whole acronym Spark. Not just because, when you build relationships and coach people on mentoring, I've seen other acronyms like FORD, where it's like family, occupation, relationship, dreams, where it just talks about how do you have the conversation and build the relationship. But what this does is it puts that networking and conversations into a strategic place. So
Hmm.
actually, how do I not only how does this add value to me, but also how can I add value to the other person? And I say, yeah, so thank you for coming up with it or sharing it because I find great value in it.
Great. We will go into a framework of how you can have those conversations, and I'm familiar with the forward. I didn't use that one intentionally, so we'll go into that next. Maybe one more. Was it hard for you to think about which type of connection, or is this a new way of thinking about people in your network?
Um, I think personally having those roles split out was quite useful in the sense of you don't necessarily need one person to fulfill all of those roles. So there may be multiple people across the business that you can reach out to. So people might be better at advocating for you to, as in that mentorship role, but others might be more um, useful to network with in terms of, sharing your success when you're not there kind of thing. So I think, yeah, being more aware of the roles being split as opposed to trying to find one single person to fulfill all of those, it's quite useful.
Right. And sometimes people can be a blend of a few different ones too. Just depends on the type of connection that you're making. So definitely good for being aware of that. Okay, great. So let me share my screen again, and then we're going to go into some tactics of with those connections, then what do you do from there? So when it comes to now that you've identified who within the organization, the next step is now you may need to know how. So there is a tactic framework, and this will help you build relationships authentically with people. And so we'll go into that, where the tactic framework will be able to help get you started when it comes to what do you talk about or how do you get the conversation going with the contact. So the first one for T is you tap into curiosity. And then A is for ask for insights or stories and being able to then connect over shared values. And T is take initiative to follow up. So, for example, if they're like, oh, this is a really great podcast that I recommend after you've listened to it, then reach out to that same contact to be like, thank you for recommending that to me. My favorite insight was XYZ. What was yours? So then you're building a great relationship where it's not just transactional, because you don't want to be known as that person that reaches out just because they want something or like, oh, I want a job or I want this or that. You want to be able to also be a giver, be resourceful, and think about what are the things that you can do to help share knowledge. So the I is investing in the relationship. So even ask questions like, what are your goals or what are you looking to do? And if they say that they're looking for a resource in I'm like, let's say it's growth mindset. You're like, oh, then there's a book about this and it's by Carol Dweck or whatever topic that they're mentioning, then you can help invest in them. Or another example is a lot of my mentors are chief diversity officers and they're like, oh, we want to recognize our leaders. And so I share resources to them like, oh, maybe you can nominate them for an Add Color Leader, Add Color Futures, or there's women fellowship programs. And these are free industry resources that I share with them that they might not be aware of. So then you're looking to intentionally help them. And then that's how they'll remember you. And then they're going to genuinely want to help you back as well. And sometimes I'll share like a secret I do is like the goal sometimes is I definitely want their help, but I don't start the conversation that way. I invest in it first. And then at the end of the conversation, they're like, let me know how I can help you. I'm like, yep, that was the goal. So you want to be able to make sure you're helping them and ask them like, what are the things you need help with? How can I support you? And then ideally, they'll generally want to do the same. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're talking to different types of people. And sometimes they won't want to help you. I mean, that's something you have to acknowledge too. So, like being able to trust your gut of like, is this someone you want to build a relationship with or not? I've talked to so many people throughout my life where I'm like, and now I have this gut feeling where when I meet someone, I'm like, okay, pass. This is not someone I want to continue to invest in. And then when you do meet someone that you do want to continue to invest in, what I do in the workplace is I let them know, like, oh, I loved connecting with you. I would love to do this monthly, to have one-on-one check-ins with you. And when you have that genuine connection with them, they typically are like, yeah, let's do it. Because one example is yesterday I was actually at a work event and there was executives. We were at a table where one of my colleagues was being awarded as a woman to watch. And so we're sitting at a table with 10 people and a few executives. And I didn't get to really talk to a lot of them one on one. So we actually follow each other on Instagram. And I was sharing about the event on Instagram. They were clapping it and commenting, hearting it. And I pinged them on Instagram to say, like, oh, so great to see you. Like, love your energy. Like, I would love to catch up. We haven't had a chance to really connect. And this morning, one of them actually responded to say, like, yes, let's definitely do that at the end of the month. I'm like, great. Then all I have to do is reach out to their executive assistant to schedule that. So that's just another way of being able to invest in the relationship and being really intentional about, like, if you really like this person, like, try to meet with them, whether it's monthly, once a quarter, being able to put it on their calendar. And then the last one is C, celebrating and elevating others. So that's also really important to make sure that you're being intentional to recognize the people around you. So even the example of that work event that I went to yesterday, so the colleague that was being recognized, I nominated her. So she is our head of health equity, and I nominated her for the award. And it was great to be able to, it was actually the first time I met her in person because she's remote in Texas. So we were able to meet for the first time and just being colleagues for this past 2.5 years of me working here. It was incredible to be in person to celebrate with her. And then also know that, like, she deserves this kind of recognition and you're being able to celebrate her. And in return, your colleagues will also want to celebrate and elevate you as well. So being able to create that kind of environment with your connections is important. And there are different ways you can do that. Even if it's not nominating them for award, it could be, let's say they were talking on a panel, you could tag them on a LinkedIn post and say, like, so and so was amazing moderating this panel, and here are some insights from them. So you're giving them visibility and a boost as well. And they'll remember that and really appreciate that. Okay, so these are some examples to go a little bit deeper that I just wanted to give you some additional examples in the workplace. So, like, let's say for a tap into curiosity, you can go to someone and say, I'm curious about how your team approaches project scoping. Would you be open to sharing more about the process? So you're curious more about, like, the ways of working. And then this works because you're really showing that genuine interest and you're initiating connection without having an agenda really behind it. And then ask for insights or stories. So you can go to someone and say, oh, you've been here a long time. What helped you navigate a project or whatever you're curious to, like, learn more about, to gain insights from them? And that helps because you're inviting storytelling, learning, and then it may organically turn into even a mentorship. So depending on the type of connection. And C, for connecting over shared values, you can say, I noticed you're part of the sustainability employee resource group. Like, I would love to get more involved. And so then you're connecting with a colleague who has shared values with you. And that helps build trust and rapport through that shared common identity. And then taking initiative to follow up. So you can say, oh, thanks for that conversation, would love to catch up next quarter, and then see what they say. So then you can make sure that's on the calendar, that's scheduled. And that helps make it not just a one-off relationship building. Because a lot of times you might meet someone and you're like, okay, now what? So if you really like that person and want to keep building that relationship, I would recommend you be the one to be proactive to say, like, let's do this again, and then see what they say. And then when it comes to investing, you could even say, so if there's thought leadership that you see them on, or you could say you saw this article that you thought of them or the project that they're working on, this helps show that you're adding value with not asking for something in return from them. So it really helps reinforce trust in the relationship. And then the last one, for celebrating and elevating each other, it's giving people a shout out on a project and showing appreciation to them. So that really helps strengthen the connection and boosting collective visibility. And now it is your turn. So we'll go back into breakout rooms, and this one will give 7 minutes so that you can share the connection, share one person you'd like to reach out to, which tactic you'll try, and then you'll be able to talk about that in your breakout rooms. Okay, let me just put you back in. Wants to share, who wants to share how their breakout rooms? I see very positive is in the chat. What was positive about the conversation that you all had in your room?
Well, the we talk about leader. I asked about the motivation behind participation on the workshop series, and then also we have Sia. She shared about how she plans to use it for a current project. They asked for insights or stories to, and Lori mentioned that it was a good way to optimize her time and get more insight as they trying to develop a project. If I recall correctly, I think she mentioned and Sina might need to step in and tell what the project was because I think I kind of lost track, but it sounds interesting, sound very, very interesting. So.
Yeah, I talked about the topic that I'm working on is talent development and performance management in the company. And I would need lots of leadership and senior leaders in the company to kind of help me pushing the topic forward. So I would connect with them based on their insights and stories from the past, what worked for them in their teams, how they developed team members in the past to know what's working quite well at the moment. And then working together on, okay, what can we do even better in the company to get better on this topic overall, and then kind of catching them and get their buy-in and their help to push this topic forward in general.
Yeah, that's great. And definitely getting that executive buy-in is so critical. And you could even take it a step further because you're asking for insights and stories, then you could even follow up with them. So like once you start sharing that and then there's momentum, you could even thank them for like helping spread that word. And so that helps continue to update them with what's happening. I think I see that in the chat, Julian, I noticed that the aspects tap into curiosity invest are kind of all interlocked into each other. Yes, they definitely are. So depending on like the type of connections or how you want to go about it. So I made it as a way that it's like an easy starting point because sometimes you might meet someone or a lot of times people can get intimidated by a title. So instead of thinking of someone as a title, think about, okay, how can I talk to this person as a human? And you're tapping into your curiosity or what are you curious to know more about this person or just hearing their life story or being able to support them in what the work that they're doing. Any other groups want to share?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts or particular strategies in helping people within your team actually ask questions and be curious? I find that a lot of younger people I work with are struggling to actually ask questions. They almost feel quite anxious or reserved or like it's not their place. Do you have any strategies on how to help people overcome that?
Yeah, like if they are, one example could be like if they're your direct report. I mean, even if they're not, I would recommend you having a one-on-one with them and encourage them to say like, oh, it'd be great in this team meeting for you to start asking some questions and kind of understand what is their obstacle or their barrier from speaking up. And I share that even just from my personal example. When I was younger in my career, I mentioned it to my manager to say, like, I want to speak up more in team meetings, but I don't know how. And he is probably the best manager I've ever had in my career because he was like, got it, I'll do that for you. And then literally in a team meeting, he like called me out to be like, Jocelyn's gonna share this update. And I was like, oh shit. Like, and then I did it, and it helped me build my confidence. So I would recommend with those junior talent, don't call them out in the meeting yet. Like I would say, build that relationship with them separately, one on one, understand what their goals are, support them, and be a mentor to them. And then once you agree with how you want to move forward, then you can be like, great. So then during our next team meeting, I'll ask you to ask some questions. And then maybe they don't know what kind of questions to ask. So then you can give some examples to them so that they have something to learn from, so that can help encourage them because they probably don't have that confidence or know the type of question to ask. And I think they will really appreciate that too, because then they'll even feel seen in the workplace to be like, wow, Paige really wants to see me more as a leader for visibility. So they'll definitely start leading on you more to be able to do that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I love how you touch on like within like a team meeting, not calling them out right away like he did with you,
Yeah.
but like also a team meeting, like hopefully is a safe space. So also giving
Yes.
them the platform where like it's okay to make a mistake, like it's not in
Hmm.
front of a key stakeholder or something. Like that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep. Great. And I saw there's in the chat interesting saying about following up. Tend to forget this often. Yes. And that's where that's also what helps invest in a relationship. What I'll also say is think about relationships as like social currency, where you're constantly investing in it on a continuous basis. So being able to follow up, those people will be generally happy to hear back from you, to be like, oh, that's amazing. Love that what I said helped. Because a lot of times leaders, I mean, even including myself, someone will say, oh, what you said was really helpful. I'm like, what did I say? And like, so I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that helped you. And then that leader will typically want to continue to help you as well, knowing that like what they shared helped you in your journey. Okay, I do have a few more slides and then I'll make sure we get room for Q&A. So feel free to start putting questions in there. I'll make sure to cover that soon. Just want to make sure to cover the rest of it. And we can jump into ways to advocate for yourself. And with this one, this could be a whole workshop in itself. So I do want to say the call out for that it was hard for me to think about what to put on here, but I wanted to put this as like a starting point for you to think about. So for you to start practicing that muscle of advocating for yourself, try to share outcomes, not just activities. So, especially in the workplace, focus on business results, not just the tasks that you're doing. You want to make sure it's a quantifiable result. So, even the examples that we put in our resume that are quantifiable results and business impact, make sure to practice even verbally talking about that in the workplace so that people know what are the business outcomes that you're creating in your role and the value that you're creating, and then nominate yourself for visibility. So whether it's for leading a panel to be a speaker, submitting a case study, or there's high impact projects, being able to raise your hand to say, I want to get involved in that. And that can help advocate for yourself in the workplace. And then use storytelling in meetings. So being able to frame your work with a narrative or growth or insight. So even when you have one-on-ones with your manager, that's your time to shine to be able to have talking points of like, here are the projects I worked on, here are the things and the growth or the insight I've learned from this. So that's something that you can practice working on. And then give credit while naming your role. So definitely acknowledge others, but also be able to clarify your contributions so that people know that you were the one behind leading a project or being able to work on something. And then loop in leadership with updates. So keep the key people in the loop of wins and momentums, because especially the higher they get up in an organization, they're not going to know day to day what happens. So for you to be able to, let's say you have a meeting with the president of the organization, let them know some key updates that they might want to be aware of so that they know what you're actually working on. And then being able to ask a sponsor or peer to amplify you. So think about advocacy. When it comes to advocating for yourself, it's not solo, it can be collaborative. So one example is in one of my former jobs, I had a colleague where we had the same manager, and she was like, oh, I'm going to mention how you killed it on this project and did an amazing job on XYZ. And I was like, great. In the team meeting, I'm going to mention you did this and that. So you're also advocating for each other in that way, and building that kind of environment in the workplace will be really helpful. And then even sponsors. So for example, in my current workplace, I would be talking to an executive and they're like, "Oh, I'm meeting your manager tomorrow." I was like, "Oh, make sure to mention this." And they're like, "Of course, definitely will mention this about you." So they're advocating for you when you're not in the room. So those are just some starting points of examples. And there's definitely a lot of other ways to advocate for yourself. And just think of it as a muscle for you to build strength in and get stronger at. And then I know we're at time because we started a little bit later, so I'll make sure to go through this. The networking connection. This is just to help you get started after this workshop. So identifying a connection, think about their name, role, the spark type. Why do you want to connect with them? Choosing a tactic focus, and then drafting your outreach message, and then being able to create that plan of action, and then setting a visibility intention. So reflect on where might this connection help you grow, contribute, or be seen. And then I also created a connection plan worksheet for you so that you can all do this even after the workshop. So I will drop that in the chat. And then I think we are room for Q&A if there is time. I know we kind of are over a little bit. I will stop sharing. Okay, I think there was a question in the chat earlier, like from Gary.
And we have Molly as well, who has a question.
Okay, I don't know if Gary is still here because I know a few people had to drop. Hold on. Okay, so let's see. Gary's question was, do you think the best approach is to just ask people how they want to be interacted with? So I would say yes. So when I connect with someone and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this person, I want to stay in touch, I ask them to say, oh, I would love to do this more often. Like, does monthly work, quarterly? What makes sense for you? Especially if they're an executive and they might not have that time. You want to be respectful of their time and then see what they say. But that goes with anyone. Like, so even if it's a peer, you can ask them like, does weekly work or bi-weekly? And sometimes people are like, oh, weekly is too much. Like, let's do bi-weekly. I'm like, great, I'll send the calendar invite. So definitely ask for their preferences. And then I think Anju said, what's my podcast? It's Transform and Thrive. It's also on Spotify. Any other questions? I think you said there was another question.
There is a question from Molly.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Molly.
Hi. So something you said earlier struck me, and it was something on the lines of like, people tell like pretty quickly like, if someone is someone they want to like vibe with and connect with more. I think I think you said something like that. Um, and I guess I'm wondering how like for neurodivergent people, like people unconsciously just dislike us because they can tell we're a little weird and like something's off and they don't quite know what. And I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to manage that.
Manage, are you saying like what people are thinking or?
Like the just like instinctual sort of like discomfort that people feel where they're like, I can tell there's something a little weird about this person and I can't tell what.
Yeah.
Like, do you just name it, or does that invite like more stigma and awkwardness? Like, I don't know.
Well, first, I would say you're not weird. My husband is neurodiverse, and I think what's important is whether you're neurodiverse or not, I think it's important of being intentional with who you're connecting to and make sure to connect to people who are going to be kind to you and appreciate you for like who you are. So if they are someone who is like standoffish and treating you weird, that is like also trusting your gut to be like, maybe this person is not someone I want to continue to have a conversation with. But if they are curious to learn a little bit more, and depending on how open you would like to be, you can also call that out and say like, oh, I'm neurodiverse and like I would love to just learn more about you in this way, or depending on your comfort level. And I say that because even in the workplace, which is great to see, we actually have colleagues who openly talk about it and talk about this is what works for me when I connect to someone. And also, I will share that I'm better at networking now, but like younger me, this was so uncomfortable, like cringy. Like I would text my sister when I'm at a networking event, who she's not even in the same industry as me. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And she was like, you're there already, just talk to someone. So like the better, like the more you practice it, you'll get more comfortable with it. So being able to just practice with like peers or like with people that like in a networking event or even in L&D Shakers, I would recommend like networking here. So then you can apply those same networking skills in the workplace too. So you'll definitely get better at it and give yourself grace because when it comes to any kind of growth, it's going to be uncomfortable. So it depends, and it depends on the contact. So I would recommend if you are comfortable being transparent with them, you can even say like, "Oh, I'm practicing reaching out to people now one on one, and so it's a little bit weird, but like would love to still get practice, and I appreciate you making the time." And I've said that to people before too, where when I had a one-on-one coffee with someone, I've said to him like, "Oh, I'm reaching out to you because I'm looking for more mentors, and maybe you'll be one." And they eventually became one, so I was lucky with that contact, but it's not always going to work out. Sometimes I've had meetings, I'm like, okay, never talk to this person again, and be okay with that too. So it's kind of just experimenting with different things and then also being okay with that too and have fun like along the way. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
Feel free to reach out like on LinkedIn. We'd love to stay in touch.